Okay, so let's go on. Thank you, Jose, for your introduction. Let's move on to the third day of this seminar or webinar. Okay. In the first day, we saw most of the products. We repeated in the second day. In the second day, we repeated WP22 and MIMO 4040 and the video ones and some applications. So yesterday we did EclerNet Manager software. Okay, we covered these topics, and today we will continue with the EclerNet Manager software, and we will design cover the topic of designing UCPs, and we will see an example step by step. Okay, so we'll know about virtuals, which is an important topic, and will let you do almost all the UCPs you can need in a regular installation. Also, channel groups. We'll see channel groups, which is a feature which I usually do not use, but sometimes it's needed. Net string buttons. We will see new features which are quite interesting and that are from version 6. Okay, version 6 was launched on November last year, so there might be some issues that are quite important to highlight. Okay. Also, there is we will see some issues about legacy versions, so old versions of firmware and software, how to manage that in old installations. And we will see briefly DuoNet Player, the N44 Bob, NXA, and if we have time, we will talk about the practical exercise. Okay, so let's go on. User control panels, UCPs, design. Okay, we can design many different UCPs. Okay, so for example, here we have several examples. As they are customized, you should know if your sorry, let me okay, put this in silence so nobody calls me. So you have to know your customer. If you need, if the customer can just manage something like this with many buttons, or he will get scared and needs something like more like this. Okay, which is more understandable for anyone. Okay. There are different types, so you can just put images and buttons to your taste, or better, to your customer's taste. Okay. Okay, so here we have an example. Okay, the EclerNet Manager, and we are in the UCP section. When you design UCPs, okay, you should be in design mode, okay, and here under this, let's say, title, you will find different objects. So is where the place where you need to be when you are designing UCPs, okay, and it's important that this window is in P option. As you see here, there's a P, okay, which means properties. So you can see the properties of the selected controls here in the right side. Okay, in this case, we're selecting a button, which we see in this tree. Okay, here's the button, is radio 1. And here we see the properties of this button, the name of the file of the button, the opacity, if it's visible or not, what are we controlling, etc. Okay, so if you open a browser, okay, at the same time, when you are in deploy mode, when you are in design mode and you type in your browser localhost, which means basically pointing to your IP address. So for example, if you have a computer in 192.168.0.20, let's say, if you point to that IP or type in localhost, which is the same, you will see this. If EclerNet Manager is in design mode. So it says user control panels are disabled. The server is currently in design mode. Okay. As long as you turn it into deploy mode, okay, when you are in deploy mode here in the software, you click on the buttons and you cannot change properties. You are acting as a user, so the button is pushed. Okay, and at the same time, in the browser, you'll find that when you push deploy, it turns into waiting for deployment, and it loads the project and appears all the UCPs you have in that project. So this is important in order to just click and check what's happening. So at the same time, you can have the metrics in the same screen and the user control panel. Okay, see it here. Okay, if I open whatever file I have, okay, for example this one. Okay, so now I open a browser here. Okay, if I'm in design mode, you see, if I'm in deploy mode, okay, we get here. Okay, so and then you can just, why is useful this? Because then you can see what's happening on the matrix at the same time that you are controlling the UCP. So it's a way of checking if what you have done is correctly done or not. Okay, it's a good thing to know and to use when you are designing UCPs. Okay, so here in this tree, under the user control panels tab, you can see different panels. Okay, in the panel we define the resolution. We define the users that can access to that panel, and it's a place to insert pages. So one panel can have several pages. Here's page 1, page 2, page 3. So the sense of this is that one panel is assigned to a physical panel, so to a WPNet touch, for example. So, and you can just browse in between the different pages you have in that panel. Okay, so if you have, for example, 3 WPNet touch, you will have 3 panels. Okay, usually, or you can have 2 WPNet touch pointing to the same panel, or showing the same panel and acting on the same, exactly the same pages. There's no trouble with that. Okay, so just remember, you have to define resolution. So for example, WPNet touch is at 1280 by 800. Okay, if you have a mobile phone or other kind of screen, maybe it's more, but just keep in mind, if you there's an auto fit function, so it will always fit the screen. So if you have a low resolution screen and you make a design for that, and you show it in a high resolution screen, the auto fit function will make the screen bigger, okay, which might be comfortable for the user, but then you will see low resolution graphics. On the other way around, if you if the auto fit function works the other way around, so you've got a high resolution and it fits in as something that is less resolution, it will make a auto fit and will make it smaller, so controls will be smaller. So you have to be aware more or less where the user will show the UCP panels to make the UCP panels functional, so they can have comfortably operate the UCP. Okay, so pages. We have several pages here, and we defined in every page we can define background, and it's the place where we insert controls, buttons, faders, whatever, and layers. Okay, here there are layers, and inside the layers you can also place controls on more layers. So what are the layers for? The layers basically the layers are like folders. Like in a computer you have folders. You can use a computer without folders, but in order to have a tidy computer, you make your folders and just to find things and to have the information in a more structured way. Okay, here is the same, and it will allow you, if you create a layer and you put some different controls, let's say a text with a button and with an LED, okay, 3 controls, then you can copy the 3 of them at the same time and move the 3 of them at the same time. If they are not in a layer, you will have to move them one by one. Okay, you don't have multi-select option in EclerNet Manager when you are designing UCPs. Okay, and controls, which are buttons, images, and all these things. Okay, we will cover what type of controls we have in the next slides. Okay, so to add a control, we right click on the screen directly, okay, and it will show up a menu, and we can just click on add control or add, and there will be a list here. Okay, so here we decide what control to add. What controls do we have? All of these. Okay, rectangle is a rectangle, so there's no mystery in there. Different colors, rounded or not rounded. Here you have a gray rectangle. Okay, here another one, dark gray, rounded. So just to limit zones or areas of the UCP. You also have images. Okay, this is an image inserted into a UCP. You can insert several types of images, JPGs and PNGs, which are the most common nowadays. BMPs as well. You have to take care that the image is at the right resolution and pixels. So EclerNet Manager does not allow you to crop, to stretch, or to modify the image. Just you can insert an image, but you have to be sure it's inserted as it has to be. Okay, you cannot edit an image in EclerNet Manager. Next one, text. Okay, different text with different fonts. Whatever fonts do you have in your computer, they will appear in EclerNet Manager. Buttons. Okay, we will have LEDs. You can just have LEDs to show up mute functions, or whenever you are in a preset or whatever, you can light LED. Meters. Okay, meters, no mystery in that. Faders in fact are two controls, two objects. okay? And the button that you slide and an image behind with the scale. So you can have the button without any image behind, or there are already done images to put behind with this scale, with numbers, without numbers, just the whole, okay? So whatever you want. Buttons to decide what to do, to mute, to call presets, whatever. What else? Dynamic text. Dynamic text are text that changes. This is commonly used in a UCP like this, for example, for the DuoNet player, just to show up the tags that MP3 files have, or the time elapsed, or the time remaining, or maybe the volume as well is a text that is a dynamic text, so you can show which volume you have selected at that time. Increment, decrement buttons, so you don't need a fader or a rotary knob. You can just, sometimes it's more comfortable. For example, in gyms, people prefers just to have a button that to slide to check the volume. I sometimes I use a fader for the rough, let's say the rough adjusting of the level. But then I put buttons on and over and in the bottom of the fader just to make the fine tuning. Okay, but this is to your taste. Okay. Page link. This is a button, a special button with this function that lets you navigate, browse from page to page. So if a panel has several pages, up to 14, whatever, you can go from the first page to the last page, just if the first page has a page link. So you click on here and you go to the page you determine. You can also, sorry, you can also decide to not to have any page link and just to browse sliding the pages. But if you have 14 pages, this is quite uncomfortable. If you have 2 pages, maybe it's okay, because you slide from side to side, or you have by default for example, in the WPNet Touch, you have the OSD buttons, which allows you to navigate, like here, these buttons, okay? WPNet Touch, you would see something like this, okay? So you have this, you can show these buttons or not, it's up to you. So you can also decide not to show OSD keys, okay? And just make like this. You can scroll like this, okay? In a touch screen, you just with your finger, you slide the several pages you will have in a panel, okay? So next, control button multi, a key that triggers a batch of actions with a single press, okay? This is one way of making several things with just one click. Another way is overlapping buttons. This is a new feature of version 6 and all the version 6 software and all the other coming versions after version 6. Okay. So if there are 2 ways of doing the same thing. This happens a lot of times in EclerNet Manager. Okay. And here we have also a button, a special button as well, a UDP string. So when this button is pressed, it sends a defined UDP text string to the network, okay, to control other things which are not maybe from EclerNet Manager platform or EclerNet platform, let's say. Another way to add controls, okay, we can, so we saw that we can right click on the page and insert a control, but we can also import a panel. If we right click here on the title and we import a panel, we'll ask which panel. So if you have the downloaded package, okay, inside the downloaded package, you will find basic controls, EclerNet Manager, and inside basic controls, you will find basic panels. And here you will find a UCP, which are controls library UCP panel. If you select this one, okay, it will appear this panel, okay, that includes several pages of the several controls we have in our library, in our controls library. So it's a visual way of selecting buttons, okay. Here you have the user guide, okay, and you will see, if you click on here directly, you will see all the buttons. So you can just copy them and paste it into your UCP. So if you like this one or this one, you can see all of them. See here buttons with rectangular buttons, or here square buttons, okay, LEDs, whatever, okay. Here you have also faders, which is something that was demanded, just to have the already done faders in different colors, different sizes. So you do not have to create your own fader. Here you have the image behind the fader, the meter, and a text. So this is what is commonly needed. So you can copy all of these, okay, bigger ones. And we have 2 pages of miscellaneous, so you can just, okay, if you like this design, you can just copy all of these, or if you like this one, whatever, and take advantage of something that is already made, okay. You can import controls library, but you can also import basic panels library. As you saw here, sorry, I go back. If here there are basic panels as well, okay, basic panels in 2 resolutions. This is the old WPAM screen, okay, which was discontinued and was substituted by the WPNet Touch, which is 1280 by 800 pixels resolution, okay. So you have these 2 and the video panels, so you can import them as well to your project and take advantage of them, okay. This is also quite interesting. Here you have these are the video ones, and these are the basic ones, okay. One for the player, one for controlling one zone, one page for controlling 4 zones, and one paging station with the 40 buttons, okay. So let's see a basic example, okay, step by step. Let's see, what do we want here, okay. We have these sources, okay, CD, PC Mono, Duonet A, 2 auxiliaries, and a PageNet, okay. And we will have 3 zones, stereo zones, okay. Remember to activate the stereo mode in the ones we need, okay, the ones we need in the here in the outputs as well. And we want to create a UCP. This is the UCP that we want. So I will show you how to create this from scratch, what steps you have to follow. Okay, so we get into the software and we rename inputs and outputs. And this is just selecting the channel, okay, and renaming. Right click, rename, okay, CD, okay, and like this, okay. The CD was a stereo input. So when we select this, here comes to stereo, okay, always from the odd to the even channel, okay, 1 and 2. You cannot make a stereo signal between 2 and 3, okay. Always odd is the first one and even is the second one, is the right one, okay. So we have to do this with all the inputs, okay, and in the same way we do with the outputs, okay. So you will end with something like this, okay. And as you see, and I want to point out here there's only this signal, so we have to change to the link mode. So in the matrix it behaves as a stereo signal as well, okay. Just remember this detail because it's important. Okay, so we want to create, we have the matrix already renamed and with the stereo and mono selections already selected. And we go to user control panels. And we here in the auxiliary window, we select the P for properties and we start adding panels. That's here, right click on here, add panel, okay, the panel name, whatever it is. And we here inside the panel, we right click on the panel again and we add a page, okay. So once we add the page, we rename the page, okay. Hope that's clear. And let's add, for example, a button, okay. So we right click on here and we add a button, okay. That's it. And here, as it is selected, we see the properties of this button, okay, where it's placed in the UCP, the opacity, if it's visible or not. If it's locked, would means that you can move it or not through the screen just by clicking on here. And also we can assign the parameter that we want, okay. So we click on here and it will open a tree. And okay, in this case we want to create the first button, okay, that we want to control the cross point between the first input to the first output, because the first output is our zone 1, okay, the left of zone 1, and the first input is the left of the CD. So we want to control this cross point. As we are in stereo mode, the right signal of the CD and the right output of zone 1 will follow, because we have selected stereo not only in the parameters but also in the matrix. So okay, we just open this tree and we select MIMO. And what do we want to control with this button in the MIMO? Matrix in and out, so a point in the matrix. Which point? In the cross point between input 1, and inside input 1 we have output 1. And what do we want to control? Mute. We select this. Here we have like a path, okay, devices, the MIMO, matrix in out is the cross point between input 1, output 1, mute. We say okay, and there it is. This is the parameter that I'm controlling with this button, okay. If I do not like this square gray button, you can change it, okay. clicking on here, okay, this is the default button, and it opens up this. Basically you can change, you have this controls library, okay, of the buttons, and these are single controls. Every file is a single control, and you can choose between large, mid, extra large, or default buttons. Okay, you will find in each of these folders you will find buttons, fader, knobs, LEDs, scales, transport control, or view meters. Okay, so you can just select whatever you want, and you will have the shape that corresponds to that file. Again, remember that you have the controls library panel, which is more visual, and you can just take advantage of that and copy and paste. Okay, so you have the panel, you can import the panel here and copy and paste to your panel, which will be more visual. Okay. Here, I had the example. So you can import the panel, the controls panel, and you will have it here. Yes, because for example, fader. Let's go to the faders page in the imported UCP panel. Okay, let's go to the faders page, and let's say that I like this fader. Okay, number 14. So when I click on here, you always have to be aware that whatever is selected here, in the left side, in this tree, you get to the control, okay, to the object that we are selecting. Okay, so in this case, you see we have a layer called fader plus something else that is scale. Okay, you have an image and a fader, which corresponds to this fader and this image behind. This is a folder. So if I only want this, I can copy this layer. Okay, if I want also the meter and the text, which are in this folder, in this folder that has the first folder that we talk and these two objects, I will copy this. Okay, so I right click on here and say copy, and I go to my UCP, my page, and I say paste. Okay, right click and paste. Okay, and there we are. We have this fader, and now I can edit. So for example, I will click on here and I will say, okay, I want to control, this is the UCP for zone 1. So I want to control output 1. Okay, output 2 will follow because it's in stereo mode. And I click on here and I get to output channel, output 1. Okay. Okay. What else? The meter. Okay. I have selected which parameters to control for the fader. Now I want to edit the parameter of the meter so it will show the level in output 1. So I will click on here, and I will have this tree, and I get to MIMO, in output channel, out 1, view meter post. So if I go with the fader all the way down, the view meter will be at 0. If I open this fader and there is music, the view meter will show up the levels that are coming out of the matrix. Okay. Okay, so now we have this is in very dark black. Okay, so I will want to change the background. So I get to page, as I said, is the place to sorry for that, the place to change the background. If I click here on page, you see we have these parameters, and one is color. we click on color, and we can change the color to my taste. Okay, there we are. So we can continue adding buttons and making it a little bit more beautiful. Okay, and we can arrive easily to something like this. Okay, with a square, with this square has is a white square with some 50% opacity maybe. So it's something just to limit the buttons and whatever. Okay, perfect. So what happens here? And let me show you that we are controlling. Okay, we are selecting this input to zone 1, to this output. But as we are controlling the mute, the cross point between input 1 and output 1. Here's the cross point between input 3 and output 1. And here is the cross point of input 5 and output 1. Okay, so we can also select everything just to be routed to zone 1. This, it might be okay for in some of the cases, but most of the times a user wants to select. Just if you click on one, the other ones are muted. Okay, so depending on which one you activate, the other ones are deactivated. Okay, so something like this. You click on, when you click on here, it's deactivated. You click on here, the other ones are deactivated. Okay, so it's a selection, it's an exclusive selection. Okay, let me show you here in EclerNet Manager. So I have this concrete. Okay, here is this example that we have already made, and here I have the user control panel. So you see, this is what we did. Here we control output 1 and output 2 follows, and here you control the cross point between input 1 and output 1. Okay, here we control input 3, output 1, and here we control the cross point between input 5 and output 1. So as we independently control them, we can mix them all together. This might be not useful. And also there is another trouble that, okay, if you have a pager, let's think that we have a pager here in input 9, okay? So if you mute or control these levels here on the top, what will happen? That if I send a call, okay, let's say a page, a general paging message, if this is muted, the message will not come out to zone 1, okay, because it's muted. So this is an additional trouble I may find, and I may do not want to behave like this. Okay, maybe I want to all the this cross point be muted. Okay, when I push here mute, but I do not want the output to be muted, so I can still receive messages from other sources. Okay, so how we can change all this? We need something called virtuals. Okay, so we will add a remote. Okay, in this case we are using MIMO 4040 DN, but it's the same in MIMO 7272 DN or in other MIMOs. Okay, we add a new remote, and we select a virtual remote. Okay, what is a here? Okay, and then we click on here to edit, and we select carousel. And it may remind you something this, okay, because it's a little bit like when you are connecting an analog remote, an analog ball SR, that you have the selection and you have the volume. Okay, this is the same thing, but with virtuals. Okay, so you have this, and when you open this window, you add a remote, a virtual remote, and you edit it, you will find this. Okay, we are working on zone 2, which is channel number 3. Okay, and it's the type of carousel. Okay, and we want to control with 2 virtuals. This is a concept, virtual glasses and virtual controls. Okay, it's just a concept. Do not look for these items in our portfolio because they are not. Okay. Okay, so you've got these virtuals. So with one virtual, you are selecting the source. With the other virtual, you are controlling the volume. Okay, so in this case, okay, all these buttons will be the selection, like the selection potentiometer. All these buttons act as a selection selector. Okay, so this will control virtual 3. Okay, and this will be controlled from virtual 4. Okay, and here we have our carousel. Do you remember the ponies? I'm sure from yesterday, for sure you remember the ponies. Other details not, but I'm sure you remember these ponies. Okay, so these ponies correspond to my possible selections. So in virtual 3, that is related to this carousel, the first carousel. Okay, and inside the carousel you have several choices, which are my ponies: a white pony, a blue pony, a pink pony, and a green pony. This, that in the case of an analog device, it was clear. Okay, is the first position, the second position, the third position. Here we have to create it. So if we look into the carousels, we will see that when we made the carousel, we see these numbers. Okay, these numbers correspond to my ponies. So if I want to select with my selector and the source, the CD, I will have to make virtual 3 take this value, 38. Okay, if I want, for example, to get player A, to select player A in my selector, I will have to edit this button. Okay, this button will be linked to virtual 3, and when I push this button, that's the push only feature, I will send this data, 88. Why this data? Because it's this one. So depending on the number of sources of the carousel, I will have here different numbers, and I will have to use these numbers to make this selection. Okay, here, okay, we select virtual 3, and here we have the data. Let me show you in the, okay, here you see virtual 3, 80, depending on the on the values I have in the carousel, I have to use one or others. Okay. Okay. So hope this is clear. So this is for virtual 3. Again, virtual 3 are all these buttons, and I will change the value depending on the value I have in the carousel. This will be off. This will be the first because I want this to be the CD. This will be the second because I want to be this and the second choice. And this is the third choice. Okay. Okay. And virtual 4, of course, will control from 0 to 100. There's no mystery in there. So here, this you have virtual 4, and you say, okay, the minimum is 0, the maximum is 100. Okay, this is by default. If you don't want the user to get lower, to get to 0, you can just force here, and you will not get to 0. Okay. Okay, but this is a special feature. Okay, so, and remember, these different numbers will be shown here in the carousels section. Okay, this is something that is maybe the let's say most complicated thing. You have a video on purpose in our website, because you will not remember, you will remember the ponies, but not all of this stuff in a month. So if you do not remember, just get into media and you will find how to create a UCP panel. I don't know how it's called, the video, but it's the one of the last ones. So just take a look to that video and you will easily remember all this stuff. Okay. Okay, so we have talked about virtuals and what they are, and now it's time to take out of the drawer the remotes. You remember that we to put virtuals in a drawer because it was too complicated to explain at that point what are virtuals and what are they made for. Okay, so when we launch MIMO 4040DN, we launch also these remotes that are connected directly to the network. And these remotes were only working with MIMO 4040DN. But people asked if it could be possible to use these remotes with the former MIMOs, okay, 88, 88SG, and 1212SG. So finally, we launched a firmware, okay, that is called WPNet 4K-VR, which means R. This stands for retro compatible, okay. So, and just to find the way to make it work with the former MIMOs. So basically from factory, they come configured to work with MIMO 4040DN, 4040CDN, or 7272DN, but you can upgrade to a firmware which is R, that lets you work with MIMO 1212SG, 88SG, or MIMO 88. Okay. So, but it doesn't work in the same way as the MIMO DNs. Okay. And let's see how it works now that we know what are virtuals. Okay. Here we add the device as usual, okay, and here we will choose a 4-key VR, okay. We will add a 4-key VR, not a 4-key V like in MIMO DNs, but a 4-key VR, okay. Okay, so it's added, and if we click on here, we will see this configuration. Here is the networks, here are some options, and here is the interesting things, okay? These settings, okay, basically, this remote, you have to say to him what device you want to control, and how do you tell him? By the IP address. So if my MIMO is in this address, I have to click on here. This address is the one of the remote. This address is the one on the device that I want to control. Okay. This is the IP to control. And here you will select the virtuals you want to control. So in order to make this remote work with MIMOs and with former MIMOs, MIMO SG and MIMO 88, you will have to create in the MIMO a remote, a virtual remote, okay, to control. As we did for the UCP, we will make also one for the remote, okay, and you will have to, here you have virtual 1 and virtual 2, and in the remote section, you will have to say, okay, virtual 1 and virtual 2 of this matrix. So you will control that. The question maybe some of you ask to themselves is, or would want to ask to me, is, okay, can I control the virtuals from a UCP and from a WPNet 4-key VR at the same time? The same virtuals for the same zone? Basically, yes, there's no trouble. Okay, so you will control volume with virtual 2 from this remote and from a UCP at the same time. No trouble for that. Okay. Okay, so we close this parenthesis of remotes and we continue in the UCP design. Basically, advice and tips. I have commented some of them, okay? Think big. Just take into account that if you want to see, because some, and if you are over 40 like years old like me, sometimes you have big screens and you design a UCP, and when you see it on the smartphone, it's not as big as you thought. Okay, so just make sure that it's big enough, because at the end, when you design everything and you put everything in place, and it's quite time consuming, and if you have to reduce everything, it's not, you have to replace all of the controls. So just keep on checking meanwhile you are designing if it's okay or not. Okay. Also, don't place too much objects in a page, because it gets a little bit confusing. Okay. Also remember about resolution, your devices. Keep away from corners. If you are using OSD buttons, remember, let me show you that this is okay, this is the browser, but in WPNet Touch, it happens almost the same. If you're working with OSD buttons, okay, here they are placed in the corners, okay, like that. Let's simulate. Okay, they are placed in the corners. So if you put a button here in your UCP, then you will not be able to reach it, because if you're having the UCP, the OSD buttons. In the WPNet Touch, it's possible to take the OSD buttons and disable them, and just let the user navigate or browse through your pages with the page link buttons you have already created, so you don't need always the buttons, and you make a guided let's say navigation. Okay, so use layers and layers and layers. This is quite important. Okay, it's if I want to create a button here, another button, okay, to add a fourth button here, I can just, because this is in a layer, I copy all of this like this, copy, and I paste it here, paste, okay, and then I move it, and I move. How do I move this? From here. Well, now it's locked. I have to find the layer. Oh, it's locking here. Okay, unlock. This is my new button. Okay, still we do have something that it's here, locked. Okay, so now I move it and I have another button. Okay, why it's so important, a layer? Because I cannot select several things, so I cannot, and just having, you can be very precise and accurate, but it's all depending on what are the elements that compose an object. It can be quite time consuming to just align everything again, so just use layers. Okay, use unlock, no undo. So once you are happy with it, just lock it, because it's very easy to just click on here, for example, because I want to edit this text, and I go like this, and there is no possibility of undo. Okay, yes, I know. It's not a funny thing to don't have, but we don't. So once you are happy with this, if this is the place that it used to be, you can lock it, and then there's no way of moving it. Okay, so basically when I finish a design, I lock the page. You see, now here it cannot happen anything unless I unlock this. You can lock a page, a layer, you can lock whatever you want. Okay, next, you can use windings. If you are in Microsoft Word or whatever, you can use this. Maybe you can just, okay, let's see. You can just insert a symbol. Okay, this is in Spanish, but if you go to insert symbol here, you can add a symbol from where is it? Oh, here. So you can add a symbol here in webdings. There are webdings and windings, which are symbols and arrows and all that kind of stuff that you can take advantage. Okay, this is windings too. Okay, I have this hand, so I can copy and paste it here. Is paste it here, but I have to select webdings too. There we are, webdings too. Okay, so it's a way of having an icon and resizing depending on the size of your button. So it's quite it's a way of making things fast, because if you have to find an image and size it to meet the size of the button, it's quite time consuming. This is an easy way of doing things. Okay, so no, don't use strange fonts. Okay, webdings and windings, these are in all Microsoft packages. Okay, but there are some fonts that are not standard fonts, and you can use it. You can use it with your UCPs. The only thing that happens is that if you go to an installation with another computer that doesn't have that font, when you get the project, it will happen that you will not see that font. It will be replaced by another one randomly, and then you will find everything that is misaligned. So once you send the project back again to the UCP server, you will have everything disaligned. And the only way of getting things back is getting with a computer with that font and getting the project, so everything will be again assigned. So basically, do not be so creative, because if you're using strange fonts, things can happen. Use opacity. Okay, it's a way of creating new pages and not getting much concerned or worried about the colors, because if I create like this, okay, this is not a light blue, it's a white with some opacity. Okay, you can see it here, 20% of opacity. So what happens if I want to create another color? It's quite easy. Okay, this is zone 3. Okay, and I can create fast another zone. Okay, zone 3 was for it will be virtual 3 and 4 was for zone 2. Here we can create another 4, and this will be 5. So I can just copy this. I'm creating now a UCP for zone 3. Okay, this will be virtual 4 for all of them. Well, this doesn't matter because I don't want this. Okay, I can make it invisible, for example. Here is virtual 4, and here it has to point to output 5, for example. Here, as you see, I can change directly here. Okay, this path, and it's faster than changing it in another place. Okay, so this is virtual 4. No, it's not good. This is virtual 5, and these are virtual 5. Okay, because virtual 4 is the volume of the second zone. Virtual 5, and this is virtual 6. Sorry for that. And this would be output 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I have created now a UCP for zone 3. Okay, but I need the remote for zone 3. Okay, so I will add a virtual remote. Okay, now very fast. Carousel, the first carousel, it's okay, and it's for zone 3, and I want virtual 3, 4 are for zone 2, 5 and 6. Okay, only volume and 6. Okay, there we are. So now one thing you have to know, now I'm connected to a MIMO 4040 CDN. Okay, so virtuals work. If you do not have a MIMO online, if you are not connected to a MIMO, and virtuals will not work. Okay, so keep in mind that when you are designing, because at first, if you do not remember this, you don't understand why it's not working. Basically, because when you send a value to a virtual, is the matrix that sends back what happens. So what is the carousel, what is the selection. So if you don't have the matrix, there's no feedback, so it doesn't react in the virtual. Okay, so let's see what happens here. I have created the UCP. Okay, so here this works as it used to be, that we didn't like much. This works as expected. Okay, and if you mute that zone but not the output. Okay, and what happens here? Okay, this works. Okay, this is zone 3, and you can select and you can just control the volume. Okay, and mute. Okay, so we have created this UCP very fast, as you have seen. Okay, and recycle big green don't work twice. Okay, you when you import UCP, okay, let me show you. Here I have created a UCP that was a copy of this one, but if you import, let's see if I can make it. If you import a page, import page, and I have to go to okay, to my computer. So I get to software, EclerNet. So I import, let me see, extra panels. Okay, so I've got here several USPs I've made, and maybe I want to use this one. Okay, I don't know what it is. See zones panel. Okay. Okay. Okay, this is pointing to a obviously to a place that is not this master form mo is not my MIMO. My MIMO is called MIMO. So if I want to change this, okay, there is one way of just taking this name and renaming your device. So this is the name of the device. Okay. So you can just okay, you can do what you would commonly do is, okay, I have to change this and I want this device and I want to control a virtual, let's say that we need to control virtual 1. Okay. Okay, we can do it that way. As you see, it's in white. Whenever it's in red, it's because there's nothing in that path. So I can do it that way that we shown, or I can do it this way and just paste this. Okay. So once I paste this name, okay, as you see here, now the buttons have found their way, let's say. Okay, and then you can go back to the name you had before and get okay, you see, once they find their way, they keep latched to that device. Okay, they follow that device's name. Another thing is that if that virtual one is the virtual, it should point, because this depends on what you have here. So I should have a virtual in here. Okay, a virtual one that is making the right things. Okay, but well, it's another way of having the correct paths. Okay, channel groups. Let's put an example for this, okay? And just forget about the example we had been seeing. Let's think that we have an installation with 2 buildings, and there are 1 MIMO in each and every building. So we have 2 different matrices, but it's the same company and we have the same network, so you can work in the same project. Okay, here we have the MIMO 1212 in building 1 and another one in building 2. Okay, so we have almost, they are twin buildings. Okay, they have almost the same the same zones. Okay, but in building 1 and in building 2. Okay, so we want to control, maybe let's think about parking. Okay, there are 2 buildings, but the parking is the same, they join together there. So you would like to have one control for the whole floor of the parking. Okay, or maybe the hall and the corridors of both buildings, or maybe there is a common area, a space in between buildings, which you have loudspeakers from one building and the other one covering the square in between. Okay, well, you would need you want to control this with one control, and a way is getting into here. Okay, channels, the Project Explorer. Here you will see all the output channels that you have in your project. Okay, in this case we have 12 outputs from the matrix called building 1 and 12 outputs from the matrix called building 2. Okay, if you click on here, by default you have all, okay, all the channels, so you can see here all the channels, and you can create other groups. And here we have created 2 of them, which are hall and corridors and the parking. Okay, so, and we create these 2 groups, and we assign the outputs to each group. So in this case we have B1 hall, B1 corridor, B2 hall, B2 corridor. So now this control will control these outputs, but is a multiplier, so we'll keep the balance. So you see that here we have more level than in here. Okay, this volume would be a multiplier, so we'll keep this balance and just will make go up to the top or be lower, or attenuate both in the same way. And the same for the parking. So here in the UCP, what you have to do is assign it to, not to a device, but to a channel group. In this case, hall and corridors volume, okay, or the parking in the other case. Okay. Okay, net strings. So net string button sends a defined UDP or TCP text string to the network, okay, to a defined IP port, IP address with the corresponding port, okay. And what for? For controlling external devices from a UCP panel. External means external to EclerNet platform. Well, in fact, even the EclerNet devices can be controlled that way, with sending commands by TPNet, but it has little sense to send TPNet commands to a device that you can control directly from the UCP. We can build integrated and single control system in an installation. So whatever devices we have that can be controlled from the network or from an RS-232, because we have the ETH232AD adapter, which let's say translates from network commands to RS-232. So you need this converter to control devices that are RS-232 controllable. Okay, so we can create a small routine. Just we can click on a button and send different commands to different devices, controlling the audio, the lights, the video, okay, whatever you need. Okay, so let's see how it works. This is a multi-button, so it's not as we have seen, okay, it's not a button like this when you add. Okay, you have button, but this is a net string button. Sorry, did I say multi? No, I meant net string button. Okay, this one. Okay, so this one is a net string button. And in here, what we see when we edit this button, okay, we can see in this case, okay, we can see these comments, okay. These comments do not belong to EclerNet Manager, belong to, in this case, the hub. Okay, we have a device, switching matrix that is called hub. But in fact, there are two models, but they are not from EclerNet platform. So you cannot see it in EclerNet because they do not belong to that platform. Can I control them? Yes, because they can receive commands from the network. So I can create a panel, okay, that sends commands to the network, to this device, which is a hub, okay, to this port that this is set in the manual of the hub, okay, and it says these are the commands of the TPNet manual, okay. See, these are snapshots from the manual, okay. Hub series digital zoner, and you have to send to this UDP port, okay. This one is what we are using. If we go to the command section, okay, hub series digital zoner, you have to, the first message, system connect or system connect once, okay, I use system connect once. And then, okay, output source, okay, set output source, set output source, output channel 1, input 1, okay, system disconnect. Okay, what are these symbols here? This is a line fit, so they need this TPNet needs a line fit just at the end of each and every command, okay. So here you have the line fit. Okay, what about the second button? Okay, it's almost the same, but with inputs too. And you have to find each and every command. As you see, is the same. Here you set the level to level, set output level 1 to 5. Okay. Okay, so here another example, ePlayer1. ePlayer1 does not work with TPNet and does not belong to the platform. Can I find a way of controlling it from WPNet Touch? Yes, you just have to send JSON messages, okay, JSON commands. You have also in the ePlayer1 user manuals tab, you have the JSON commands, and you find something like this, which seems very complicated, but at last it's just player open source 1, okay. At the end it's just like that. So this is the first one is player source 1, Okay, the second one is player source 2, and that's it. So as you see, this IP is a different one. It's from the player. What happens that all of these buttons point to that IP. So if I want to use this page in another network, in another project, I will have to change all the IPs of this page. Okay, because it can easily be that it's not in this IP, but in another project is in another IP. So to get a solution for that, from version 6, we can have like an alias. So we can add a device, which is an external device. In this case, we use the hub, okay? And when we edit this device, here, the only thing that we can set is the IP address, okay? So all of these, we can change this IP address to the alias, okay? So now it's hub. So if I use this page in another project, in another network where the hub has another IP address, I will only have to change this in here. Okay, that's the advantage of using this. So everything will be redirected as it points to the alias, not the direct IP. Okay, so as we have seen, we can control whatever we have that it's not from the EclerNet platform, but accepts messages. Here we have an example of VO. Some of the VO devices are not of the EclerNet platform, but can be controlled from the EclerNet platform like that. In order to avoid you clicking the commands, we have the basic VO panels, the video panels already made, so you can copy them from the basic panel section and paste it to your project. Okay, so you can just save a lot of time using that. Okay, as said, you can just make a routine which you click on here and you send commands to different devices. Okay, select this audio input, put open or turn on the projector and dim the lights down, so we get into conference mode, and when you finish you click on stop and you just revert all these parameters. Okay, so you can create this kind of things. Okay, so I want to just see with you a video with the new EclerNet Manager features, okay, which is, most of them we have seen it, but I'd like to point out some that we haven't seen it yet. So I will just stop meanwhile we are seeing this. Just let me, no volume. Okay, stop it. Okay, so now the UCP panels we are providing from the UCP server are in HTML5 format. Okay, in the past, before 2021, and they were in Flash. Okay, but Flash is no longer supported by browsers, so we turn into HTML5. It's important to know that if you get to an old installation, okay, just if they are using PCs or something, it can happen that they got into trouble. Okay, they cannot work with PCs if they have not the firmwares from version 6. We have AAC. In the manual, you have a deeply explained AAC. Okay, you have all these parameters. Okay, so flexible routing, we already covered that. Okay, you can decide what to put into each channel input. Okay, what to route, which port to route to any of the channels. Here you have also a help if you get lost, because sometimes you're using too many signals. So this, if you stop, a message will appear of what we're using and where. Overlapping buttons. Okay, here we have a button which is the path is muting output 1. Okay, it's controlling output 1. Let me show you if you can. Okay, the next one is controlling output 2 mute. The next one, output 3 mute. The fourth one is just controlling. It's not a regular button. It is a page link button, as you see, and it links to page number 2, which you have here, page number 2. And the last one is not controlling a mute, is controlling a preset in your device. Okay, so they have different functions, and now the user puts on one on the other. Okay, gets into deploy mode and then clicks, and when he clicks, you see they have changed. These 3 outputs are muted, preset 2 is loaded, and you are no longer in the first page but in the second page. Okay, so you can overlap. Digital events can be triggered by automatic signal detection. Okay, so this is for MIMO 4040 DN, CDN, and 7272 DN. So you create a Docker, okay, assigned to an input, a channel input, and even if it's not affecting to the outputs, well, okay, you can just add a new event, okay, and select Docker, okay, Docker 1. When this Docker, okay, this is, sorry, add new event. So when this Docker, okay, when this Docker is activated because the threshold is reached, then this event will make whatever it's set in the target. Okay. Okay. Next one. The external device, which we have been covering already. So here is a video, as you see, a video panel. So we have changed these video panels. They no longer point to IPs. Now they point to external devices. Okay, so you will see if you get the extra panels section, the extra panels projects from our website, you will find these panels, and you can take advantage of that. Okay. Okay, so what else? Just let them finish. There's more. Okay, now you can also control virtuals from TPNet for all MIMO matrices. Before it was not possible. You could control cross points and inputs and outputs, but not virtuals. Now it's possible. And you can just before you could not disable the OSD buttons. Now it's possible, and make a guided panels browsing structure. And in the secure mode, they cannot even get into the configuration of WPNet Touch, for example. And in 4040DN, CDN, and 7272DN, we have increased there are 25 pagers and deckers, okay? And the number of carousels has been increased. In 7272, it's even higher, okay? These two numbers are even higher. I do not remember now the limits, but okay, so these are the new things I wanted you to know about legacy versions, okay? Check the firmware of your devices. Software and firmware always have to match. If not, it will happen something, okay? It will not work properly, okay? You can check it in here, okay? Software, you download this PDF, and this PDF you will find a table. Here, for example, in red are the firmwares that have changed. For example, here MIMO 88 from this version to this version have not changed, so that is why it's black. But MIMO 4040DN, yes, has changed. This is why this one is red, okay? So just if you get to an installation and you've got just a MIMO 88, okay, you can use maybe this software, which is the latest one, or you can use this one if you want, okay? But if you have a MIMO 4040DN and it has this software, you have to use this software, because this software, it might not work properly, okay? Where to find the softwares? You go to support, legacy downloads, software. Then you look just EclerNet Manager software, and you will find all the legacy softwares here, okay? Let's see other devices. NXA. You've got here the models, the amplifier models. They have here a matrix, an input matrix. This is an example for NXA 4200. So you can just adjust the level and the signals which you want to get into this module. If you have a level, crossover, parametric EQs, compressor, delay, okay, very easy. Now that you have seen, I'm going fast because now that you have seen MIMO, it's very easy to understand this. Here you have the front panel knobs you can assign to whatever you want, okay? The output in this case is controlling output 1, output 2, the second knob, output 3, okay? But you can change options here. GPIs, it has 4 GPIs. You can just assign to whatever you want here. You can recall presets, whatever. You have virtuals and Docker. So virtuals means that you can control from a 4K VR, you can control the NXA, okay? Or virtual means that from a UCP, you can control an NXA, okay? Okay. DuoNet player. Let's see. Here you have a DuoNet player device, okay? In the first tab, the configuration, enable, disable, and the local playback, and the local keys, the front panel keys, okay? Or the remote keys, okay? You can enable or disable. As I said in the first day, it's important to have NTP synchronization on if you are using time scheduled events, okay? And setting the time zone correctly, just to keep everything on time. Okay, this is network configuration, obviously. Player A, you've got the transport controls, the different play modes, okay? Load a playlist, the play mode, repeat mode, fade mode, Okay, if you click on here, it will change. And here you have the volume, okay, if it's stereo or mono, and the vari speed, which means the speed of reproduction. This is for player A. Okay, obviously player B is the same. Priority modules. Okay. Here you adjust the priority. You have two modules, so there are two priorities, high or low, and the volume. So you want, if you want to adjust the volume independently. Okay. And here you have the attenuation of the whatever is on the channel at that time, background music, for example, and the fade in time and the fade out time. Okay. Okay, the same for the other modules. Then if you touch this button here, okay, you will get into the playlist window. Okay, so the first playlist will be by default USB, the second MMC. You can change it if you want. Okay, this is the SD card. This is the next ones are by default are empty. Okay, in this case I have edited to just show you other possibilities. You can create a playlist with a path of your network, okay, to play a concrete message in a concrete place, maybe a NAS or a computer, whatever, or maybe a USB. Here you can create a list of different possibilities, playlists. Okay, it's not a file. It can be a playlist. It can be a folder. Okay, or it can be a streaming. Okay, from the internet. Okay, we have up to 99 playlists. Okay, so, and you can have playlist of playlists. So there are files like PLS or M3U, which you can just type in there different things like other playlists or other files in other places. So there's a lot of playlists to load here in DoNet Player. Okay, so calendar, not calendar, but events. Okay, we have events. These events are by default. Just we have 5 function keys on the front panel, which are by default assigned to the first playlist. Okay, here you can find, and these are like events. You can keep it, you can delete it. If you delete them, the function keys will not make anything. Okay, and by default, they recall the first 5 playlists. Okay, in the case of player A, in the case of player B, the same. Okay, and we have also the function keys for the remote. Okay, it's the same. We can add new events. As you already know what is an event, and you already have seen a diagram like this. So as target, as source, as trigger, okay, we can have GPI, virtuals, a panel key, which means a button on the front panel, an IR key in the remote, okay, a button in the remote. When a preset is recalled, it can trigger an event, and the time scheduler or the time scheduler basic. If we see an example of the time scheduler basic, which is the most common, okay, you click on here, time scheduler basic, this is the source, and you have to set up the start date, okay, the start time, and the duration forever. It means forever since it's turned off, or the device or the page just breaks down. Okay, and daily repetition, so you choose which days of the week you want this to work, okay? And daily repetition means how many times you want to be repeated. Just to point out that in this case, for example, it says it has to be repeated 2 times, and here says when the event will finish. So what is the last time it will sound. And if you think of it, here it's 4:55, okay, and it repeats 2 times. This means that it will sound 3 times, okay. The first time will be the original one at 4:55. The second time would be 5 minutes later, so at 5, okay, and which is the first repetition. And the third time it will sound, it will be the second repetition, and it will be at 5:05, okay. So you repeat 2 times, but it sounds 3 because it's the first one is the original one, it's not a repetition, and the other ones are repetition, okay. Hope it's clear. The target, what actions can we make? Okay, so here can we call a preset, launch the program media playback, okay, so launch whatever playlist we want, launch priority media playback, so priority module, we will activate a priority module, okay, the one that we have, the 2 of them that we have, controlling various speed or transport controls, play, fast forward, whatever. Okay, so program media playback, for example, you see here, you choose what to play, one thing of the playlist, play mode played, and if it affects to both players or just to one of them, okay. And here, when you finish the configuration, here you have this one that we have made, okay. So, for example, in the example of an alarm, okay, sometimes that there's a dry contact, so a GPI that is connected to the DuoNet, and then we launch priority media playback, which means that we select the module to be activated, which playlist has to play, and if it's this module, it acts on player A, on player B, or both. And if the trigger mode, if it's activated as a pulse, so the alarm goes like this as a pulse, and then the priority module has to play the whole playlist, or if you want the whole mode, which means that it will keep on playing meanwhile the contact is closed. When it opens, it will stop playing, okay. Okay, DN44, Bob, and we are about to finish, I guess. Bob is very easy as well. We have here the analog inputs, so we insert these inputs. We have phantom, sensitivity, and level, and mute, and these controls, okay, gain, whatever. Are the same ones that we have in hemos, more or less. Oh, sorry. And then these input channels are sent to the network, okay, through the RJ45. We receive from the network some Dante channels that have nothing to do with these ones, the first ones. So it's just, it's one device, but there are the transmitters that send analog signals, and there are the Dante receivers that receives Dante signals from the network. So who decides what to receive? Dante controller, okay? and we can adjust level, gain, and that's it. Okay, and mute and reverse polarity. Okay, so these which are taken from the network are just sent to these analog outputs. Okay, we have here the GPI section that the other day someone asked. Okay, you can configure to just have several presets, okay, as an analog input, or just having volume to affect to, in this case is affecting to 3 outputs, 2, 3, 4, okay, so these outputs are affected by a GPI, or inputs, even inputs, okay. So, and we have 5 presets, and you can save GPO's configuration. So you can have a preset with this GPO activated or not. Okay, so well, that's it about presets. Sorry for Bob. And we're arriving to the end. Just where do we find more information? Okay, you have resources in the website. You have the user manual, which is more than 400 pages of EclerNet Manager. You have the manual of the devices, but only the manual of each and every device only talks about the hardware. If you're looking how to configure and do a net player, an event, you have to go to EclerNet Manager manual, okay? You have TPNet commands as well, a manual of TPNet commands. We have datasheets, text files, okay? The best way to find these resources is just, at least for me, audio, software, and you get into EclerNet Manager, and here you have the manuals, the software, okay? In the software, remember, you have not only the software, but the firmwares, basic panels, the controls library, and also the PDF with the software and firmware table. That one to know which software matches with which firmware, okay? This is also replicated here. You see, here you have EclerNet Manager and related firmware legacy versions, okay? So we put it also here just in case you don't want to download the whole package. You have it here on the website directly. It's the same file, okay? We have also examples here. You can download some examples, okay, and you can also download. This is the TCP UDP is the one that I show you of ePlayer and Hub, okay. Here you have other examples from hotels and more stuff. And the last one are the extra UCPs, that here you will find the whole library of UCPs. And regarding that, just keep in mind that you have some, and let me show you, no, this one, no, sorry, ecler.com. Here, webinars. So if you want to know more tricks about designing UCPs, I recommend just seeing this webinar I just made a few weeks ago, which we get into depth how to take advantage of the different tools that we provide for you to save time and make faster the user control panels, okay, and some other tricks. Okay, media, you have also all the videos, okay, EclerNet Manager media. I understand. Okay, you have here, okay, see, you have the webinars. Also remember, you will see here this one. Remember the one that I said that you will remember about the ponies, but not exactly how to do in the virtual virtual UCP, creating a selection and volume control UCP. Here is the step-by-step video. So for sure you will get into this video sometime. Okay. Okay, so our 11 videos were up to here. So now we have some more. Sorry, some more, and you have a time to spend to see this magnificent series of videos. Okay, and don't forget to subscribe to our website. It's the only way of getting news about new updates, new products, new updates of the software. Okay, so do not forget to subscribe so you can keep this news away. So, and that's all. So thank you